As y'all know, I'm Catholic. I'm a Catholic convert, but I also believe that I also have Catholic heritage on one side of my family, and I believe I was brought to the faith because it was where I was supposed to wind up. It's one of the things I've noticed about my life, thinking providentially. Um, I think I've talked about that elsewhere. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to get sidetracked with that tale now. I want to instead. I want to talk about the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, the first American-born Pope ever. Um, I don't really have much to say about the guy who's the new Pope. I know there are some people who are saying that we're hopeful about him, there's good signs, and others are blackpilling and doing the typical thing, saying he's Francis 2.0. And I'm not really here to weigh in on one side of that or the other, except to say uh, I have an opinion. I have a take on this new guy, but I don't really want to. I don't really want to get engaged in that because here's the whole point, and this is a point that I think a lot of people missed or miss whenever there's a new pope, whenever there's a conclave, whenever a new pope is elected by the College of Cardinals. There's all this stuff about, oh my, where do we go from here? Everything is up for grabs, and what's going to happen now? And you hear a lot of this stuff from Catholics. You know, uh, you hear a lot of this stuff from Catholics who supposedly believe in the doctrines of the faith. And what is one of the doctrines of the faith? I ask you. Let me let you see me here. To some degree. There I am. Um, what are the doctrine? What's one of the doctrines of the faith? One of the doctrines of the faith is that the interpretation of Christ saying to Peter, uh, Peter, you are the rock, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. All right, that's the scriptural origin of the belief in the papacy, which I don't want to go into. I really don't want to have a debate about the papacy versus those who don't agree with the papacy, whether you're Protestant, whether you're Orthodox. I don't. That's not my focus here, and I'm not interested in discussing it, even though it's an interesting question. But that's not. I don't want to get sidetracked because that's not my point here. Um, so, my point is, for faithful Catholics, for people who believe in the faith, that should be enough, right? And I think what non-Catholics and even some Catholics don't understand is that the Pope is not the Church. The Pope's identity, his opinions, his uh, you whatever kind of a person he is. There have been good popes and bad popes. There's nothing that says that the Pope is going to be a good guy. There's nothing that says the Pope is going to be wise. That the Pope is going to rule the Church well. It's just it's simply that he is the one who has been selected to continue the See of Peter, to be the new representative of Peter, who became the Bishop of Rome again in Catholic belief and doctrine. So anytime there's a conclave, all of this sort of anxiety of, oh, I hope it's this guy, I hope it's that guy. And I had my own, I've never heard of the guy that they nominated. I didn't know who he was. I had my own favorite. I wanted Sarah, Cardinal Sarah, to be Pope. I really like him and find him very solid in the kind of stands that he's taken and so forth. But in any case, it's not about whether you like this guy or dislike this guy, or whether he's going to be a good pope or a bad pope, or whether it's whoever gets selected. What you have to believe, if you're Catholic, is that it's God's will. God doesn't promise us anything except eternal life if we do what we're supposed to do in this life. He doesn't promise us easy lives. He doesn't promise that the Pope will rule well, or that bishops will rule well, or that they will or won't be corrupt. What he promises is that the church will remain inviolate in spite of the sins that it commits, in spite of the sins that churchmen commit. And so all of the anxiety about, attendant upon, the new conclave, what's going to happen with what's the new pope going to be like? Is he going to be to my liking or not? All of that should be irrelevant if you're Catholic. If you're not Catholic and you don't believe that stuff, and you think that the Roman Catholic Church was not installed by Jesus Christ, but that it's just I don't know, just another religious institution like all the other ones, or whatever. Whatever your beliefs might be, whatever the origin of your beliefs, your first principles might be. If you're not Catholic, of course you're gonna think, well, maybe whatever's going to happen, maybe this Pope is going to come in and have all this stuff take place, and let all this stuff take place that's against the traditional teachings of the church and so forth. And there are people who there are traditionalist Catholics who believe that's already happened. There are traditionalist Catholics, people whom I like doctrinally, but who have who are absolutely as black-pilled as anyone you can find about the church, about the state of the church. And I don't know how they reconcile thinking that some immense break has happened, how they can reconcile that with being Catholic, with calling themselves Catholic. It comes down to, you have faith or you don't. You have faith in the processes of the church, the things that have been ordained by the deposit of faith that we believe are held in the church, that the See of Peter, heard sometimes called the bark of Peter, the ship of Peter. You believe that or you don't. If you don't, then you're not Catholic. And then, you might, then I guess you could wonder, maybe we'll have some pope who comes in and just thinks that gay orgies are great, and that abortion is fine and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But if you're a believer, you know that that's not even a possibility. That even if the Pope believes things like that, even if the Pope has heretical beliefs, he cannot preach them from the seat, ex cathedra, because that would be violative of the principle that the church is built upon the rock of Peter, and that the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Right? And I'm not speaking as someone who's like some super faithful, like who's got some kind of incredible faith himself. I just know what faith is. Who was it who said pray and don't worry? Was that St. Padre Pio? Pray and don't worry. Right. There are a lot of things that are wrong in the world, and a lot of things that are wrong in the church today as a reflection of things that are wrong in the world. And there are priests who believe and espouse doctrines that are not orthodox, with a little o. They're not traditional. That are not truly Catholic. And there are some bishops who seem to have some heretical leanings, but the church itself will stand athwart all of the things that are besetting it from without and from within. And if you're a Catholic, you just believe that. It's an article of faith. For those who don't understand, who aren't Catholic but who are Christian, I mean, wouldn't if someone said Jesus Christ was not who he claimed to be, that he didn't really rise from the dead, that he was whatever. You don't believe any of those things because it's you're a Christian. It's an article of your faith. Well, if you're a Catholic Christian, an article of your faith is that the faith will continue, that the church that the gates of hell will not prevail upon the church. That doesn't mean that you're naive about anything. It's not wishful thinking, and it's not imputing better character to the bishops of the church, or the College of Cardinals, or the Pope himself. You should be wise. You should have your eyes wide open. The Pope we had for the last 12 years, rest his soul, was not my idea of a good Pope. But whether the Pope is good in your eyes, in your assessment, or not, is not the issue. There have been good popes and there have been bad popes, but the church has endured through good popes and bad popes, through good bishops and bad bishops, good priests and bad priests. It has endured through the years, and the faith remains the faith. So pray and don't worry. Pray and don't worry is what I would say would be my counsel to fellow Catholics. If you're not a Catholic, then this doesn't apply to you. Maybe it's still interesting to you, but it doesn't apply to you. I'm not interested in any debates, engaging in any debates about whether the Catholic Church is is correct or not. I mean, not that those debates aren't interesting, not that they're not important to have, not that I am against anyone who engages in them. I'm just saying that's not my focus here. You know, I've put my faith in, you know, my how would you put it in gambling terms? You know, my money, I put my money down, you know. I'm betting all I've got on the Catholic Church. You know, double or nothing. So, is it maybe it was a sucker's bet? Maybe I'm going to be sorry that I made it, but that's what I've chosen to do. You know, that's what I've chosen to do. We all have to make choices, and I'm not getting any younger. So that's a choice that I've made, and here I stand. Ironically, I quote Martin Luther to end this video. Here I stand. I could not do otherwise.